Hello, guys. I want to talk to you about something that I find quite concerning. You see, the British government has decided that they have to pressure YouTube because the entire nation is incapable of creating their social media. Like, that's really sad when you think about it. Like, they have tens of millions of people there, but like not one of them is capable of making an actual usable website. And so they have to look towards the Americans because the Americans are actually competent people, like we're creative and we actually push the human race forward. And this causes a lot of spite and jealousy over the pond. But they apparently have found a way to try and steal from us. Because that's what the person that can't create does, right? Like it steals from people that do create. And so, like, they're trying to push for legislation in order to force channels that nobody watches anyway, not even in Britain, like the BBC. And they want to force that over my content. Like, when a person goes in there, like, they get to see the BBC article, and then they get to see the Guardian article. And so, like, the British government, they want to be the ones like shaping the narrative for the entire world, and I think that's kind of bad. It's kind of like what a vampire would do. Yeah, but like a vampire, at least he leaves you alone during the day because they have to sleep during the day. They fear the sunlight, but like Keir Starmer, like I have seen him during the day, and that's more scary. Yeah, so like a lot of content creators are coming out and they're really upset about like what the British government is now trying to do, which is to pass a law that would force social media companies to tinker their algorithms, right? To push up the misinformation coming from Britain against authoritative sources like Asmongold or Penguins. And so, what I find fascinating is that, like, why are these people upset now? Don't get me wrong, it's really good that they're upset. They should be upset. In fact, I don't think they're upset enough. But I think, like, all of this could have been avoided if the moment Susan Wojcicki back in the day said that she is literally doing the exact same thing. So, in other words, what the British government wants to do is what YouTube is doing already. Like, we already know that they are tinkering with the algorithm because they have publicly said so. I forgot the exact circumstance, but it was like Susan Wojcicki, like she saw some terrorist attack. I think it was like that kid with the white helmets in Syria or some shit. I don't know, like she saw something. And she thought that you and your mother should see it as well. And so despite the fact that the original post wasn't trending, like she put it on top of the page, right? And then there were other posts that were on top of the page that she didn't think deserved to be on top of the page, even though, like, that's what people were looking for. And she thought that, well, people are dumb, right? And she is smart. And so, like, she's going to give people what they actually need to see. And that's when the tinkering started. And they were very proud of it. Like, there were articles in the Ars Technica, in The Verge, literally discussing how YouTube, when it comes to the news, they are tipping the scales. And what was even more interesting is that when the movie Captain Marvel came out, there were a lot of people that were criticizing that movie for righteous reasons. And so YouTube decided to make Captain Marvel as newsworthy, and all of a sudden the news algorithm took over, and all of the people like The Quartering, other people like Geeks and Gamers and individuals that criticize this type of media, they just disappeared, right? And the media wrote about it. I remember Vice magazine praising and cherishing the fact that, well, I guess a corporation can just tinker with the algorithm and they can make content just disappear, right? This is what the UK wants. The UK is basically saying, yeah, what YouTube is doing, we want to do. And so, like, if people were outraged at the time, if people, like, genuinely had a massive pushback at the time, And the pushback like doesn't have to be, just threatening the company or being mean to it. Like the pushback would have been if everyone would be blocking the authoritative sources by default. If you had like mods and things that you would install to just silence the mainstream media. If people genuinely did that, we wouldn't be here. We are here because it was normalized, right? Like when the left says normalization, it's true. If you have like certain taboos in society, and one of the taboo is like treat people like adults, right? Like an adult knows what he wants. You don't know better than the adult, especially when you haven't even met him. But when you break that taboo and you say, well, no, actually, Susan Wojcicki knows better than you, like she knows what you want, then Keir Starmer can say, no, actually, she doesn't. I know better, right? And I am the British government. Now, another reason why this is happening, and I notice a lot of people avoid the fact, but there are British people in a significant percentage that genuinely do want this. I know it's hard to believe. Like, I notice how Sargon is talking about it and how other people are talking about it. And they're basically framing it like, the government is evil. So you have like a couple of politicians that are sitting there and they're being evil and everyone else is oppressed. The reality is that a big chunk of the British population, and I'm sure it's not you because you're watching my channel, right? Like the people that I'm talking about probably wouldn't watch this content to begin with, but they actively support. Like they are happy that this is happening. They want it to happen, right? And so this is why it's difficult to actually block and ban the BBC and the Guardian, because there are people that would give it a thumbs up, okay? Like they may not actually watch the Guardian or BBC, but they support the idea that it's forced down your throat because it's their ideology. And they may be even sincerely believing in the ideology, right? So they're happy that their ideology is being promoted. The solution against it is to first understand what leftists think, right? Now, leftists aren't just, evil by default. Like some of them are genuinely grifting, right? Like if your mother works at the BBC, it doesn't fucking matter what the politics are. It doesn't matter what's going on. Your mother works at the BBC. And so everything that is for the BBC, you're going to support because that's where the money comes in, right? So like those people will vote left no matter what. There is no argument you can tell them that will convince them otherwise, okay? And it's just an example, but like people that are attached to the public sector. So you have here like NHS workers, people that work at the Guardian, the BBC, right? People that work in schools, in universities. Like all these people are always going to be left. Not because they're dumb, not because they don't understand. It's because that's where their money is coming from, okay? So like you can't touch those people. They're already captured. But you have other individuals that are persuaded by leftist ideology. How many? I don't fucking know. Maybe like 10%, 15%. But they exist, right? Like people who are leftists because they honestly believe what leftism teaches. And so like what is leftism teaching? Leftism is saying that the reason things are bad is because the rich are greedy, right? Like that's their ideology. They genuinely believe rich people are greedy. In order to make them turn on the BBC, you have to show them just how wealthy the people at the BBC are. And if this was to happen in Romania, like we would have just nonstop coverage of average middle manager BBC people showing how they eat at the most expensive restaurants, showing how their houses look like from a drone footage, showing like the obscenely luxurious lifestyle that they live in, and then show pictures comparison with a poor lady that has to pay for her BBC license so she can support the rich guy at the BBC going to a restaurant. That is how you reach leftists. Leftists do care about optics, but they're not right-wing optics. If you tell a leftist that the person at the BBC is a degenerate, they don't fucking care. But if you show a leftist that they live in a one-room apartment and the person at the BBC is stuffing his throat with the most expensive food imaginable in London, they start to care. Again, not everyone, right? But like you don't have to get 100%. Even if you get like 10% to start hating the BBC, as long as they're leftists, that's a win. Because people on the right already hate the BBC. You already have them. You don't have to convince them, right? You have to convince the people from the other side. And you need arguments that resonate with the other side. Simply saying that the BBC likes migration is not going to make them care. Simply saying that the BBC is biased is not going to make them care. But like attacking the fundamental legitimacy of leftist ideology, which is eat the rich, and you show them, then they start to care. Of course, not everyone, right? Like we already talked about the people you can't reach anyway. But that would be a start, right? To show, like if I was the Lotus Eaters, for example, I would constantly look at how much wealth do people at the BBC have and compare it with the people that have to pay the tax. Because I'm telling you what this is about, right? I don't think that this is about the UK wanting to push their ideology upon people. Although maybe that has a little play to do with it. What I think it's actually about is the fact that they've noticed a lot of people are canceling their television license, right? Because they genuinely stop using TVs. Like the UK ideology has infested programming so much so that it's starting to look like North Korean propaganda. It's not as obnoxious, but it's getting there, right? Like slowly and surely, every single movie, every single TV show, every single thing is basically singing the party's line like an orchestra. And people are getting bored of it. And so they stop watching TV. And so they stop paying for the license. But what if when you go on YouTube, the BBC is right there? What if when you go on X, the BBC is right there? Oh, you need a license now, right? And so this is probably what they're trying to do. They're trying to move the BBC onto the internet by force, and then making the argument that, well, actually you still have to pay a license because even if you have a streaming service, you still have access to the holy BBC. I think this is the gig. And I think like a lot of people will resist it, right? If you also get leftists on your side. You do not get leftists on your side by saying that the BBC is pushing leftist ideology. Like, why would they care? It's like, okay, that's a good thing, right? You do not get them if you say that people at the BBC are degenerates. They don't care. But they do care if you already show how much money they have and you're pointing it out that they want even more. They're still not happy. And then you look at what exactly do they do for a living? Like, how difficult is the job of working at the BBC? And you then compare it with the job that leftists have, right? Like flipping a burger or being a barista. I guarantee to you it's actually more difficult than working at the BBC. But it pays less. That's what I would do, right? These are Eastern European tactics that were developed after decades of living under communism. It's a shame if they go to waste because they're effective and they work. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, we'll see each other in the comment section. Take care.